Hey everyone, BJ Corus here for the Hollywood Moment. We're here at Barnes & Noble tonight at the Grove, all in support of Noah Galloway. Noah, you've got an incredible new book out.
Well, the book is Living with No Excuses, and it's
Spin around.
Y'all good?
Thank you.
I don't need that. This is awesome. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm really excited about this book, and I'm excited. I've been on this book tour, which is the first time I've ever done that, and I've got to travel all over. I've been in New York, Nashville, back home in Birmingham. Coming out here is really exciting because I've spent some time out here doing Dance with the Stars, and I love it out here. And it means a lot that you came out to support the book and what I'm doing. What we're going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit of why I did the book, and then we're going to do some question and answers, and then we'll sign the books. Now, I tell you that because I want to prep you on something. I get the chance to travel a lot and speak, and it ranges from second graders to high school students, college students. I've been in a room full of CEOs and presidents of companies, and I've noticed something, that when I get to question and answers, I can be in a room full of second graders, and they ask all these questions. And then you start moving up to high school, college, adults. You get to question and answers, nobody ever asks a question. But then when they come up to me later, they've all got a question. So I figured out how to fix that. What I'll do is, when we get to question and answers, if you have a question, ask it. Because if you don't ask it, when you come up to me later, I'm not going to answer it. So that's how I solved that problem.
Hello.
How you doing, Liam? It's my buddy back there. So the book, a lot of people that saw me on Dance with the Stars, wherever they saw me and heard my story, they knew that I was a veteran that lost an arm or leg. They knew that I went through some depression and got back into fitness. Started running officer course races, tough mudders, marathons. Was on the cover of Men's Health, and then Dancing with the Stars and American Grit. But what they don't know about is that big piece of the puzzle that's missing, and that's my depression. And that's about 5 years that I went through this time in my life where I wasn't myself. And I wanted something that was real. And the story of someone losing 2 limbs and then getting the opportunity to do the incredible things I've gotten to do, that alone is not real. You have to know the struggles. And I always knew I wanted to do this, but I was always a little hesitant. I had someone ask me, why do the book now? I think if I'd have done this book a couple of years ago, I would not have been as honest. And as I was doing the book, it was a struggle to go back and relive these moments and mistakes in my life. And then when the book was completed, before it hit the shelves last Tuesday, I was doing the audiobook, and there were several moments that I stopped and thought, I cannot believe I'm about to share this with the reader. But I reminded myself that it was necessary, because it's going to hopefully connect with somebody. Whether it's a veteran that's suffered an injury, or just a veteran who's gone through issues, or just any person out there that has experienced depression. Now, the book is not just all about depression. I talk about Dancing with the Stars. I talk about time before I got into the military. There's a lot in there. But I was very honest about my depression and mistakes. There's an entire chapter that's dedicated to me spending 10 days in the county jail. And most people don't know that part of my story. I wanted to share it. I want to show people the several attempts and failures that I had in life trying to get out of that depression. There was no one turning moment, one thing that happened that I was like, I gotta be better. But there was one constant in my life, and that is my 3 kids. Every time I failed, I thought of them and how I needed to be a better person, a better father. Because there was a moment that I realized that I was showing my two boys what a man should be. And that's what they're going to grow up to be. And I was showing my little girl what a man was supposed to be. And that's what she was going to be for one day. And those thoughts terrified me. And it's what drove me to constantly try to push through these mistakes I was causing on myself to try to get better and make it to the other side. Now it's been 10 years since I've been injured, and I am very happy with the life I live. Life has been incredible. But even now, every day, I think of my kids first. Every decision that comes across the table, I've had my management team say, all right, we've got this offer, they want to pay this is what they want from me. And if it interferes with my children, I turn it down. Every decision, I think of my kids first. I think of how will this affect them, and what lessons is this teaching them. And that's how I live my life. When I did this book, I do not have any intentions of making the bestseller list, selling some crazy amount. No, if this book connects with one person, then it did its job. And that's what I want. And for those of you that are here and came and got a book, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you share that with others. Now, if you don't like it, I don't want to hear about it. Keep that to yourself. In fact, don't tell it. Just put it away and forget about it. But, I am really excited and honored that you came out here because it means a lot. Because I'd have been just as excited if I'd have came out and it was just one girl sitting. But the fact that all of you are here means so much. I'm so thankful. Thank you. Now, we'll do some questions. Because I know somebody has one. Whether it's about the book, Dancing with the Stars, you want to know something about microbiology, I probably won't give a very good answer, but I'll give it a shot. But now I'm telling you, I want to answer a question you have now. Because you may have a question that someone else may not be thinking, but then wants to know. That's why I like to do Q&A as a group. Don't come up to me and ask me.
No, what do you feel was the biggest struggle for you personally to overcome the depression, and what advice do you give to others to help overcome it?
The biggest struggle I went through with my depression was admitting that I needed help and making that effort to improve it. There's a lot of people, I think that we as a country, we've come a long way understanding depression, we still have a long way to go. But reality is, we can have the best system in place to take care of depression, but if people that are suffering from it aren't stepping forward to get the help, then it does nothing. And I live that. In fact, I've had friends of mine that work in the medical fields, they work at the VA, and they read the book, and they said, we failed you, we should have done more. And I said, no, you had no idea what I was going through because I was hiding it. I thought I was alone, and no one else was feeling this way. And I didn't want anybody to know about it. And so the hardest part was me realizing what I was going through and making the steps to improve it. All right.
Did you initially take any drugs to help yourself?
I haven't gotten that question yet. I will tell you a funny story of me and there was always Prozac. So I had a doctor put me on Prozac. I've never shared this story, so now I'm regretting if I should tell it. But put me on 5 milligrams a day. And she said, go up as needed. Now, I don't know what that means. So I kept going up. And then one day, I was married to my wife, Tracy, we go out to eat we were eating at this barbecue restaurant, and I'm a creature of habit. I eat the same thing every time. And I'm sitting there, and they want the order, and I'm just kind of staring at the menu. She's like, you going to order? I was like, you know what? I'm going to have the catfish. Never get the catfish. That sounds good. I get it. It was amazing. I'm going on and on how great this catfish is. And she's like, how much of that Prozac you want? I want 100 milligrams a day. And she was like, you can't do that. So that was on me. I just kept going up. And then I was loving life. But then I came off of it and was able to, I made sure and let the doctor know what I was doing, and they were like, okay, we didn't mean it like that. And then we worked through, and then I was able to work past that, because I do feel that medication is necessary, in certain situations, and people need that. That actually gave me a little bump, probably more of a bump than I needed, but it gave me a little bump in the right direction to start improving and take control of my life.
If you would have not had any kids, do you think you would have found your motivation to get better somewhere else? Or where do you think?
I hope so. And that's one thing that I've told people that's come up before, because I use my kids, as my motivation. And I tell people all the time, you got to find that one thing. And that's got to be your goal. And before I ever got injured, I would talk about that with people when it came to fitness. You have to have the desire and the goal and the reasoning to want it. Because a lot of times we find ourselves in a situation where in fitness we're like, well, I want to be in great shape, but do you want it bad enough? And you have to have that reason. And just like with mental health, I hope that I would have found something in my life to say, okay, this is why I want to get better, and keep digging towards it, because that's what I use my kids for. So I really hope there would have been something that I would have found, because I tell people all the time, you have to find that one thing that stands out in your life that you will do whatever it takes to get better for.
Because it's interesting, I was reading your book last night, and I was thinking, because I don't have any kids, and I was thinking, because if this would have happened to me, I don't have no kids, so what would be my thing? It's an interesting question that comes.
Did you come up with something you thought?
Yeah, I absolutely did.
Yeah.
I find what you do right now, I think is reason enough. If there's one person on the planet that you can, maybe motivate or make feel better, I think that's reason enough to keep going.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I have had situations where I've had people reach out to me. I was in Orlando a couple months ago for the Invictus Games. Prince Harry started the Invictus Games for the injured veterans over in Europe, and then it grew, it took off, and now we all have our own teams. And it was in Orlando, and I was there during one of the wheelchair basketball matches, and I'm about 4 rows back, center court, sitting there, and this girl's walking across the front, real pretty, and she looks at me and she goes, "I know you." I'm sitting there like, I was on Dance with the Stars. She comes around and she's walking up to me, and she's missing her right leg really high. And she comes up to me, and both of her hands, she doesn't have very good function. And she tells me that she's an Air Force veteran, was in a motorcycle accident, immediately lost her leg, was in a coma. While she was in a coma, she had a stroke. And the stroke is what caused her to lose functioning of her hands. And here she was there competing in the wheelchair rugby team. And she told me that when she was in ICU at Walter Reed, the other veterans would come in her room and they would all watch me on Dancing with the Stars. And she said to me, she said, "You saved our lives." And even as I tell that story, when she told me, it choked me up. Because I didn't go on Dancing with the Stars thinking I'm going to affect someone's life. When they asked me to come on, I didn't want to do it. And they convinced me to do it, and I thought I'd just last a couple of weeks. But as time went on, people kept voting for me. And people said I was inspiring them. And so I just worked as hard as I could. I was not the best dancer on the show. I was the best looking shirtless. But that motivated me. And then to meet someone a year later, a veteran, tell me that story, that meant everything to me. You don't realize, when you're doing things, who you're going to affect. And that goes for any of us. But you always, if you haven't had this experience yet, one day someone's going to say to you, "You told me one time, whatever." You won't even remember it. But you have stories of someone else saying something to you that they don't remember. And we all affect each other. Yes, Lynn.
How do you drive?
How do I drive? Good question. I'm an amazing driver too. That's a good question, because I am missing my arm, my leg. But then, as soon as I point out to people that I use my one leg for the gas and the brake, and can steer with one arm. Now it makes people nervous when they ride with me, and I start messing with the phone. I'm changing music, the steering wheel, and I talk about in the book that I had a car and the motor went out, and I was struggling, and my uncle had a old Volkswagen Jetta 5-speed, and he loaned it to me. And now, if someone missing arm and leg borrowed your 5-speed, would you ask them how they're going to drive it? This is what happened to me. I walk into his house, he throws the keys at me and says, "It's a diesel, don't put regular gas in it." And I got in there and placed my foot up on the clutch and kind of messed with the driveway, and then left. And for 3 months, drove that car. I was letting go of the steering wheel, shifting gears. I thought it was pretty awesome. Yes.
When you left the Army, did you struggle to find a new identity?
Yes. That. Are you a veteran? Yes. Thank you for your service. It's, just like anything that happens in your life. I know that for a lot of us in the military, especially going in the military, you're signing a contract, and most of the time, there's that possibility you're going to stay in. Something you may get injured, something else may, you know what, I'm good, I'm going to get out, whatever it is, but you have this vision of the future. And whenever anybody sees the future and then that future is wiped away and they're starting all over again, that's what's terrifying. That's where people panic. Especially if you've been in combat, you've had such a grueling job, so demanding, and then suddenly you're back at square one, and you're thinking, do I go back to school? Do I not? Where do I work? That's scary. And it was. When I joined the military, I joined because of September 11th. I dropped out of college, went in. It was not a career decision. But then once I got there, I loved it. And I saw it as a career. And then one day I wake up in a hospital, and 2 of my limbs are gone, and my career was gone. And I don't know what was worse on me, losing the 2 limbs or losing that career. But it was terrifying and scary. And that bothered me for a long time because I didn't know what I was doing. And it took me a while to realize what I've come to learn is this happens, this happens to other people as well, but talking about veterans, we kind of get hung up on what we've done. And I coined a phrase that I own. If anybody else say it, I came up with it. But it's the Al Bundy effect. If you ever watch Married with Children, Al Bundy scored 4 touchdowns in 1 football game when he was in high school. And that's all they ever talked about. And here it is, he's got all these kids, he hates his job as a shoe salesman, life's miserable because he's hung up on the past. And what I tell other veterans, and I had to learn myself, is be proud of what you've done and where you come from. Never forget that. That chapter's over. Now I'm a few chapters in, I'm looking for the next chapter as well. My life story does not end. And I'm always looking to improve the next chapter. Because once I realized that, it made it much easier. Because then I can talk about my military service, be excited about it, but also say, that was them. And then you can move on and find that new goal, that new mission, and go out there and do it.
So then what is the next step for you? Like, what is your new mission at this point?
You know, my mission, I got that question the other day, and when I got it, I was like, oh, well, I should probably have an answer for this. I really don't. Right now I do a lot of public speaking. I love doing that, going and sharing my story. The book's exciting. There's no grand, I have done well enough that I have this nice little nest egg for my children. And what I'm living my life trying to be the best father I can be. My kids are 6, 8, and 11, and I still have some time until they're out and gone. And I want to concentrate on that. And that's what I've been doing. I came out of my depression to be a better father, and that's been my goal. Now, all this other stuff that's happened has just been extra that I didn't see coming. When I was on the cover of Men's Health, and then I went on Ellen, shows started calling me. Before Dance with the Stars, Survivor called me. And I thought that was going to be awesome. But then they said it's X amount of weeks, no contact back home. You get voted off, you stay with the crew, still no contact back home. And we had one phone call, and I said, thanks, but no thanks. There's no fame or fortune more important than my children. And I turned it away. Then another show called, and I turned it down. Now, I wasn't doing some business move, thinking, all right, something big's coming. No, 2 shows called me. And I thought, well, that was it. You know what? But I made the right decision. Then when Dancing with the Stars called, they asked me if I'd ever seen the show. I was like, no, I've heard of it. And they asked me if I had any dance experience. I was like, no. And they said, if you do the show, we'll put you in a house in LA for the duration that you're here. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. But I have 3 kids here in Alabama, and I cannot be away from it for that long. And without hesitation, Dina Katz, the executive producer, said, "That's okay. Your dancer will come to you. You will rehearse in Alabama every week and fly back and forth to the show." And I was like, crap. I guess I'll do it. And that's what we did. I was at home all week. We were rehearsing grueling hours, but I was there with the kids, and we'd fly back and forth out here to do the show. And that did make it a little more stressful, but it was the life I chose, and the kids were more important. And that's what, when I say that is how I live my life every day, I don't know what's coming in the future. All I know is I'm trying to be the best father I can be. Am I perfect? No. I make mistakes. But my kids are amazing. I mean, they're good looking. I'm not surprised with that. But they are amazing kids. That shocks me. I honestly feel like my kids are good and responsible because they see that dad isn't. And they are such good kids, and we have such a close relationship that I've had people say, if I could go back in time, would I not, if I could prevent being injured, would I do it? And it sounds corny to say it, but I wouldn't. Because I had to get injured, I had to go through that depression to have the connection I have with my kids. I don't think we would be the way we are together if this hadn't happened. And where I am, I'm so happy that I would have changed things. Yeah.
How do you learn how to work out and train?
So when I decided, I knew I loved fitness before I got injured. So I kind of was like, you know what, this will help. I always was in a good mood when I was healthy. And so I changed my eating habits, and then I joined a 24-hour gym. And I had to go in and try to figure out how to work out with one arm and one leg. It was easy to figure out how to work the right side with machines, kettlebells, things like that. The left side, I found that I could use an ankle strap and a cable machine and work my chest, my shoulder, and my back. I got a running leg, and I started running. So it was all this process. It was actually what actually made it exciting to get back into fitness was I was 12 years old when I got hooked on fitness, and I loved it. And I bought every book, magazine I could get my hands on. I was the one that all my buddies, I told them what the workout was, told them how to do it, because I just loved it. And here I was at I was about 28, 29 years old and reliving that because I was able to experience it again, trying to figure it out, because there was nothing out there to tell me how to work out this normal way. So it actually made it exciting. And then I joined this 24-hour gym. I was working out 1, 2 o'clock in the morning so nobody was there because it was embarrassing. But then as I got in better shape, I started going in the middle of the day. Then I'd go at 5 o'clock when it was the busiest. Then everybody at the gym knew me, so then I joined another gym. I started bouncing around Birmingham, hitting all the gyms because I was proud of what I was doing. And it was just this great moment that I had this pride that I thought I'd lost because of my injuries. When I got injured, I thought I lost my career. I never thought I'd be physical again. Then I found myself in the gym being cocky about it, loving it, and then running these races and showing that off. And that made me feel really good.
Trainer just kind of taught
Yeah, but I was into fitness for so long before. It was something that I got into fitness. I don't know if you know who Tony Little is. Yeah, no one likes to admit they know who Tony Little is. I have a sister that's 7 years older than me, and she loved to do fitness, and she had these VHS Tony Little tapes. When I was 12, I'd get up, I'd set an alarm and get up at like 3, 4 in the morning, and I'd creep in the living room, and I'd work out with Tony Little. And that's what kind of got me hooked into fitness, because I wanted to be fit. And from there, it's like something that grew and grew. So, yeah, I didn't work with a trainer, but I'd always been into fitness. So that helped me.
How long were you in the military before you got hurt?
I was only in for 5 years. I don't know if any of y'all saw, there was a show on Fox called American Grit. And John Cena was the host. You had me. Lord Denver was a commander with the Navy SEALs. Nick Irving was a sniper with the Ranger Battalion. T. Hannibal, she retired from the Marines. And one time, I had my team, and I would talk to them. One day I was talking to the team, and the producer behind the camera was like, okay, well, let's relate it to being in the Army. And I was like, I was only in for 5 years. I had the least amount of time in the military of anybody here. Because I went in because of 9/11. I was in the invasion in 2003, went back in 2005, and that's when I was hurt. So my time was short. But it was just enough that, I adapted enough, adopted that mindset and mentality that I loved it, and it made it really hard to break away from with my injury. We were talking about that and making that transition. But now I find myself tied into the military a lot. I've got to go to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the 101st, where I'm from. I'm doing a book signing there and giving a speech. Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the 82nd, wants me to come out and speak. I've been to Iraq and spoke to the troops. I've been to Afghanistan and spoke to the troops. The support I got, even on Dancing with the Stars, from veterans. Now, your average veteran is not watching Dance with the Stars. But there were veterans who were watching that. I had a woman tell me that her and her mom have always loved Dance with the Stars. And she'd go and sit at her mom's house, they would watch it. Her dad was this old Vietnam vet. She said when I was on the show, he'd sit in the other room. But she had to tell him, Noah's coming on. He'd get up and come in. He wouldn't even sit down. But he'd stand there and watch my dance. He'd go back to the other room. And I thought that was so incredible. It made me feel really good. Week 5 at Dance with the Stars, I danced to Toby Keith's American Soldier. Had a one-arm lift and got a standing ovation from everyone in the studio and the judges. And every dance on Dancing with the Stars is put on YouTube. And this was season 20. Mark Vallis had a dance a couple seasons before that had 36 million views on YouTube. That dance I did, Toby Keith's American Soldier, in 1 week had 41 million views. It was shared by General Odenero and all these other people. People were sharing it, and that really pushed me to go on. We're going to do one more question, and then we got to sign some books. They're going to kick us out of here. Oh, we got, no, okay.
3 questions. We'll
3 questions, let's do it.
1, 2, 3.
How'd I get over my, I haven't. Robert Herschelback, that was on Dance with the Stars with him from Shark Tank, we became really good friends. I was at his wedding, and someone drugged me out of the dance floor and said, let's dance. And I'm like, she was like, weren't you on Dance with the Stars? I was like, yes, but I do not like to dance. Still don't like it. I'm not, I don't dance. What was yours, and then you? Dealing with depression? This came up the other day. I was talking to a group, and we were talking about depression and dealing with somebody you know. Now, to compare it to, I'm going to give an example. When I got injured, I lost 2 of my limbs. A doctor could stand before me and tell me all the right answers, all the information that studies have shown fact, but I'm not going to listen to it because he doesn't know what it's like to be an amputee. Now, my father, when he was 18, was working in a plant and lost his left hand. My entire life, he's had one hand in deconstruction. And I'd never listened to him more than when I was injured because I knew that he related. Now, I tell you that to say that when you know someone in depression, it's hard to just say, hey, you need to get help, because they may start to think, you don't know what I'm going through. Sometimes it's easier to find somebody that has gone through that same thing, because then they can relate to it, and they'll understand it more. That's easier said than done, but if you can find, I think that someone, that's why you have support groups that have all been through the same thing, because you're able to work together. That's the best advice I can come up with, because sometimes you can try to push somebody to do something, but they're going to look at you and think, you don't know what I'm going through. But when they talk to someone that's been there, done that, then suddenly it makes sense.
I'm going back around a little bit, but you talked earlier about the Invictus games?
Yes, Invictus games.
My daughter is in Special Olympics, and when we first started, we came across a bit of discrimination, which shocked me, because I thought, if it's for the disabled, it's for all disabled. And they said, no, your kid's a little more disabled, and so you can't play basketball, you can't play soccer, all these things. When you, I don't know if you want the Paralympics or any of that, but when you go to the disabled activities, and I understand, the more famous you get, people wipe away the rules. They're like, oh boy, okay.
No, it's like, no, that, like.
Is it systemic? Was it just this area? You find your niche. And
Yeah. I mean, that's a tough question, and I don't think I could give a good answer for that, because I mean, there are rules. Like, it doesn't matter how, like, when it comes to Invictus or the Paralympics or the Special Olympics, like, there are rules there. I know that in Birmingham, one of the Olympic and Paralympic training sites is there. They specialize in the Paralympics. The wheelchair roping teams all trained there. And there are certain rules that have to be followed. So I wouldn't know the answer to that. So I apologize for that. All right, so
Follow you in the social media by going to
NoahGalloway.com, and you have a link to all my social media.
and they can find your book.
Anywhere books are sold, and you can go to NoahGalloway.com, and there's a link there. There's a link
Tell
there
them
as
again
well.
the name of the book.
Living with No Excuses.
And there's no excuses going on here tonight. So this is BJ Chorus with,
Noah Galloway.
and this is the Hollywood Moment.